So good afternoon. I'd like to welcome Teemu Huuhtanen, CEO of Next Games, who just announced their first game today called West, and Levin, who's the president of Ventures and Games at the Lionsgate, the notable US movie studio responsible for Twilight and Hunger Games movie franchises. And of course, Teemu's company is going to be launching the Walking Dead license game in a couple of months for the AMC hit series, which is actually #1 television series in North America right now in the under 50 age category. So let's kick off the talk. Licensed games have been around for decades in the console space, but over the last year or so, they've really kind of burst through in the mobile game space. We've had a string of hits from Disney, a couple of major Fox blockbusters like Family Guy and Simpsons. Cartoon Network has had some notable hits. Kim Kardashian had the #1 summer application blockbuster. What do you guys think? Is the importance of the licensed games growing in the mobile space, and if so, why?
I think for a couple reasons. The traditional model of licensee, licensor, there were misaligned interests. So you had the studios or the media companies that were getting minimum guarantees, and they really weren't motivated by the success of the title because they never saw any back-end participation. And with free-to-play and mobile social tablet, you've had an acceleration of the development period. So that development period maps much better onto the development period for film properties and television properties. And then when you couple that to the economics that these games are now generating, it's no longer considered just to be a part of a promotional or marketing or licensing and merchandising exercise. It's truly considered one of the foundational ways to adapt your intellectual property.
Yeah, and from our point of view, I want to add that companies need to build their audiences for their games, one way or another. And obviously, for us, getting the chance to work on a game that's the biggest TV show on the planet potentially is going to give us a good chance to hit those top crossing ranks and definitely the most downloadable games list for sure.
So Peter, I mean, what are you looking for when you evaluate possible partnerships in the licensing space? What are the things you watch out for?
Yeah, and we're trying to redefine internally. We don't look at these as licensing partners. So we look at them as a creative partner to adapt our intellectual property. And what we look for is best of breed intellectual property. So whether that's the Hunger Games, Twilight, Divergent, Saw, Expendables, Dirty Dancing, we'll go out and find the appropriate developer or publisher for that property, and then figure out the best way to bring that property to market, what platforms that property should populate. And I think unlike the traditional norms of the entertainment industry interacting with the games industry, we care very little about going day and date with a film. What's clearly been demonstrated by some of the titles that you listed at the beginning here is that the games need to qualitatively stand on their own, so that you can extend that narrative of the intellectual property. You can extend the relationship you have with your audience, with your fan base for a property. The Walking Dead is a great example for AMC to be able to, between seasons of that show, have this game, which becomes a communication conduit with the tens of millions of fans that appreciate that television show. It just gives them another way to intimately communicate with them.
So how tightly do you monitor how well the artwork reflects the original property? I mean, how hands-on are you with your partnerships?
I think we try to be as hands-on as we can be, as we are with our television properties and the directors and writers, producers that bring those properties to light. Orange is the New Black, Mad Men, or Lionsgate shows. But we don't get in the way of the creative execution. So I think it's more about a reorientation, not looking at our games business, again, just as a licensing or merchandise or promotional marketing exercise. It's really another way for us to adapt our intellectual property.
So Teemu, how demanding is it to do a top-level licensed game like a Walking Dead? What does it demand of the game company?
Well, it does actually demand quite a bit. First of all, just in order to get that deal done, get the license requires quite a bit. And like Peter mentioned, I think the media companies are looking the whole mobile gaming from a different perspective now, and which from our point of view, it meant that we have to find a company that we know that we can work with. So, no offense, but I don't think every media company necessarily knows what they're doing when it comes to games. So you need to find a company or media company that gets the game development, what it requires and so forth. And a good way to find out who to work with is just to ask people like, they worked with those companies before. And obviously the actual development is the most crucial phase, where potentially the license holder could be interfering the development. And in the case of AMC, the relationship has been really good. Like, they really care about that we stay true to the IP, The Walking Dead. So we don't do anything that wouldn't happen in the TV show. Other than that, we agreed already, like when we signed the deal, that it's our responsibility completely to come up with the gameplay and everything else except, how the brand is looked in the game.
So Teemu, in terms of user acquisition, what are you looking for? I mean, what kind of guarantees or, what kind of support do you want to have from the
from AMC?
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of that is obviously under NDA, but of course, when you have the biggest TV show on the planet, you definitely want to have TV ads that are tied into the show. So the ads for the game have already been airing in States on AMC network, and obviously, like when we go live, you can expect that we're going to be doing that much more. But I think maybe even more importantly is to make sure that all the social media channels where all the fans are, you have, I don't want to say control of that, but how to reach those audiences. So that's a key part of the deal as well. And nobody else gets to use those actors that are in the TV show. So there's going to be something like that coming up towards the launch as well.
So Peter, what are you looking for from your game partners? Are you looking for a revenue jackpot, or are you looking for expanded awareness of your property? What's the number one priority?
The number one priority is, again, a quality executed game property that, again, in a free-to-play mobile social tablet environment, that relationship can live on for years. And that is a new phenomenon for the entertainment industry, where in the game space, it was typically relegated to 6 to 8 weeks of shelf life at retail, and then you would just move on. So now, when we're vetting developers, it's really about them coming to the table with kind of a pedigree to be able to execute at a certain level, a knowledge and passion about an individual property, so that we know that if we're going to be in partnership with them for multiple years, that this is a road that we want to go down with them. Similarly, again, to a filmmaker or a television showrunner, we have to now bake that thinking into the execution of our game strategy.
So most of the licensed games have been fighting games or puzzle games. What kind of niches would you want to explore that haven't really been done that much in the licensing space?
And again, we don't look at these as licensing partners. So, I think next games and what you saw a little bit of today with West, that was a big driver for Lionsgate, because there's a bit of a hybrid in there. You've got the trading card element, the collectability, and yet you've still got a strategy game with a very unique aesthetic. So I think now is the moment in time where we can look outside of the box. We know the cost per install and customer acquisition costs are skyrocketing. So that gives a company like ours with several franchises that will bring hundreds of millions of install opportunities. That gives us an advantage to enter into conversations with AAA developers and publishers and therefore it becomes our interests are much more mutually aligned.
Teemu, what do you think? What kind of genres or game types are going to be emerging in these kind of like entertainment partnership projects in the future?
Well, I believe that you always have to stay true to the IP. So I think it depends on what kind of a TV show or a movie we're talking about here, and then you just have to find the right gameplay for that game. And in the case of the Walking Dead, we did try out like tens of different types of game genres, not genres, but different type of gameplay features, like what would make a true Walking Dead game. So I think you have to go case by case basis, but I think all the different genres will be explored when it comes to licenses. Like I think even like social casino games are doing a lot of licensed games. So for that matter, it can be anything, but as long as you stay true to the IP.
Peter and Teemu, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.